Hello and welcome back to channel CodeX. This is your host Afzal, and in today's video we're gonna create this navigation menu. In last video we created the icons, and today we're gonna add the functionality of is selected. So whenever you switch the menus, it will have the selected behavior, and we will flip the content as well. This we will achieve with the help of a provider. So we will be talking about provider, code practices, and a lot of other things in the Flutter. So make sure you watch full video, and we are going to start right after this intro. So we are inside Visual Studio Code. If you are following this series, you must be aware of the code structure. We created this build menu button for the menu icon that you can see on the left hand side, and the most of the code changes is going to happen in this section. So what basically we're gonna do is we're gonna change the background of the flat button depending on some condition. So for demo's sake, let's say we'll compare it with the title, and we'll write something like if title matches with the clock, because we want to check for the first condition. If it matches with the clock, then give it red color. Otherwise, we can give transparent color, let's say. So what will happen, only for the clock button, it will have the color, and rest all will be transparent. And the same logic we are going to use for this implementation, but we will be using provider to update the UI. Now, before doing that, I'm going to modify some of the properties here. So I'll bring this padding to the flat button because flat button has that padding property and I was not aware of it. So we will delete this extra widget, we don't need it. And to match it with the method type, we can keep something generic like widget. We can also remove it. Dart language supports dynamic return type, so it will automatically take that, but we will keep this widget for the sake of reading. To start with provider, first thing we need is a model. And I'm going to start with the enum because inside my model I want to specify each model what type of element it is, like what type of menu it is. And the best way to do is to use an enum, because I can do that with the help of ID, with the help of string like that, but enums are more readable and you can write comparison statements, switch cases, and all that will work in compile time. So here in this menu type enum, I have defined all the 4 types, and that we're gonna use inside our model. So let's go ahead and create a model file. I'm going to name it menuinfo.dart, and inside this file I'm going to create a class called menuinfo, and here we will define all the properties. So the first property will be of menu type, which is an enum, and the other property will be the title and the image source that we used to pass earlier. So let me define that. We'll have a string title and we'll have a string image source. Now to create an object of this class, we need a constructor, right? So we will define a constructor which takes all these 3 parameters. If you notice, the first parameter I have made compulsory. So anyone who is calling this class has to provide this first parameter, which is menu type, and the rest 2 are optional. You can call that with the help of named parameter, right? So our model is ready. Next thing we have to do is start the provider implementation. To do that, we need to include provider package in pub/spec YAML file. I'm going to visit pub.dev website, and from here you can copy this line and paste directly inside pub/spec YAML, and that will import, once you save, that will import the package. If you want to know more about provider, you can check this video by end of the tutorial, where I have explained in detail how provider works, starting from the theoretical to the implementation and every pros and cons of that. So even in this video I have explained it in a nutshell. I hope you will be able to understand, but if you don't, make sure that you check this video. So what I have done here, I have wrapped the home page inside change notifier provider, where we are going to create the instance of menu info. And that's how provider works. You create an instance of your object, you modify it later somewhere, and your consumers are going to get update. So we'll create a menu info like this, and you can see the error. So in the latest version of Flutter, which is 1.17.5, you have to specify the class name, which should extend change notifier. So this is one extra validation they added in the latest version. If you're running on the older version, you don't have to specify this, but if you're on the newer version, you have to. So I'm going to go inside this class and extend this with change notifier. So here is our class. I'm going to write extends and provide change notifier. Make sure that this change notifier comes from foundation.dart and not from other classes. Perfect. Now our model derives from change notifier. We have already change notifier provider implementation in the home page. We're gonna go to the home page file and fetch the instance of menu info. Now how we can do that? We have to write provider dot of context. So this context, it will find all the providers, and we'll have to specify the class name so that it finds the particular object, and there you have the instance of your menu info. Now we can modify menu info as we like. So I'm going to write update menu info method. Here I will accept a modified version of menu info, and I will update all the values of this current menu info to the latest menu info. So the same thing I'm going to repeat. I'm going to update title, I'm going to update image source, and after that we have to perform one important step, which is to notify all the consumers. This is very important. Whenever you update your model, you have to trigger this event to notify all the consumers listening to it. So that's a pretty simple implementation over there. We're gonna update this model with the help of menu info. So I will write menu info dot update menu, and this time we have to pass a new object. So this information has to be something different than the current one. So for that I will define something like current menu info like that, and this value will come from the calling method. Whenever we call this build menu button, that time we will pass current menu info. So now I'm going to change a little bit of implementation here. So this build menu button, we are going to provide the data in the form of list. So first of all, I'll create a data layer called data.dart. Inside that, I will define all the menu items which I need in my application. And that's how you separate your data from your UI layer. So anytime I want to modify this list, I can just go ahead and modify the data over here, and that will add one more list into my UI. So behind the scene, I changed the variable name of this list. I removed the underscore and made it menu items, because when you write with underscore, it creates as private variable and we want a public variable. So just do that change right away, remove that underscore, because this is how we are going to call from the home page. Okay, what I have done here is defined the menu item as we did earlier for build menu button. So the first menu item is a clock. We have defined the title and the image source. Same thing we're going to duplicate for other items. So I'll quickly say alarm, timer and stopwatch, and here you have all the menu items. Now we're going to go back to home page and change the method input parameter. So previously we were saying title and image as an input parameter, we will change it to menu info, or better we can name it as current menu info so that it matches with our variable. Fine. So as soon as you made that change, you can see that you start getting errors. That is because we are no longer getting title and image information. We are getting full menu information, so that we can utilize this object to get title and to get image source and all that stuff. And also for this comparison statement, we will use this object, and bam, all the errors resolved. No, I'm wrong. There are some errors on the top where we are calling this build menu button. So we're gonna go and resolve those. And not only we will resolve, we'll also improve the way we call it. So instead of calling this build menu button 4 times, we will map this list which we created in the data layer, and from that list we will automatically generate these 4 items. So how are we going to do that? We will say menu items. You can see that I have removed the underscore, and I'll say menu items dot map, and it will map each element to build menu button. Now the parameter e here is the actual object. Each time it iterates through the elements. So I'm going to say current menu info. You can change it to whatever you want, and that each time it will iterate, it will pass that current menu info to build menu button, and that will map it to list. So this is how we have done. We have mapped the menu items and converted it to list and assigned to the children, and that is how you can minimize your code. And that's what I'm creating this tutorial for. We are not just writing one application and getting the final output at the end. We are learning the process of development. We are learning the process of code optimization, code sharing, and all those stuff. Hit the like button if you are enjoying my content, and we are going to move to the last part of this tutorial. So we created the object, we modified, and we invoked the notify listener, and we are at the last stage where we are going to consume this data. So I added consumer on top of flat button, and inside builder property of that, we gonna return the child object, which is flat button itself. So let me just cut and paste this widget inside build. So we'll remove this child and we'll paste it over here, and let's modify the semicolon. So what we're doing, we are returning this flat button as a builder of consumer. Why we did that? Because we wanted this menu information value inside our flat button. So we will compare the current menu info dot menu type with the value coming from the consumer. So each time we click on some of the object, the value will change, and that value will compare with the current menu info. If it matches, we're gonna change the background. But when we run, we don't see the effect actually, and that is because we'll have to write listener false to our provider. Because we are calling it outside the widget tree, we have to specify it. I don't really know the exact reason for that, but somehow this works for me and I'm gonna use it. So now when I click on any of the menu item, it changes the background and it gives the feel that it is the selected item. So let's go ahead and change this color red, which I used for demonstration purpose, to something our own custom color, which I have defined in a separate file. So I'm going to use menu background color, which is a darker shade color. You can see it here. And also we're gonna tweak the shape of this flat button. So instead of being rectangle, I want one corner of this rectangle to be rounded. So how we can do that? We can use a rounded rectangular border, and inside that we can specify radius for particular border, and that's pretty simple, right? You can see the effect that we have this rounded corner, and this is pretty much it, right? The only thing I can see that which is left is whenever we click the menu icon, it should change the content of it. When I click clock, it should show me the content of clock. When I click alarm, it should show me the content of alarm. So that we can do by replacing this container. So here also we'll write a consumer, and this entire container I will move inside a builder of consumer. So again we're going to do the same thing, that we will use the menu info, and depending on the menu info we will decide which container to show. We can also add animation stuff here, that it should slide away, it should scroll, it should flip, like those animation we can add in here, but I'm gonna keep simple for the demonstration purpose. If you guys want me to animate this container when it flips, so write down in the comment section. If I get a good response, I will do the animation tutorial as well. Fine, so what I'm doing here is I'm comparing the menu type with the clock. If it's not matching, then I'm gonna return empty container, and if it's matching, then we're gonna return the same page that we have designed earlier. So when I click it, nothing happens. Let me just rebuild. Now you can see empty page. Once you click clock icon, you will get the same design, and if you click on any other menu, you will get empty page. So instead of ending tutorial on empty page, I have written this container with rich text, which indicates upcoming tutorial on alarm, timer, and stopwatch. Hola, we are done. Hit the like button if you have enjoyed the video, and don't forget to check out provider tutorial by clicking this card. As promised, I will create alarm page in my next tutorial, so consider subscribing if you haven't already, and press the bell icon for notification. I will see you guys in the next one.